Hi, this is Angela Ford, formerly with the U.S. Department of Defense, and we're going to talk a little bit about with a remote viewer. I'm sorry, I apologize. She worked at many levels. I mean, over a period, I understand, of like 32 years, you said, Angela?
Yes, over a little over 32 years.
Okay, and you were about close to 10 years with the U.S. Department of Defense, right?
Well, I was Defense Intelligence Agency, which is part of Department of Defense.
Well, the Stargate program, the phenomenon of psychic remote viewing in the Stargate program.
Yeah, that was with Defense Intelligence Agency.
Right, Defense Intelligence Agency. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
As a remote viewer?
Yeah, as a remote viewer, so we can let people understand there is a sixth sense, and that the government has used these, psychic technologies to help you find passages, the things that have been written in some of the books, fugitives, looking for weapons of mass destructions and things like that.
First of all, it was in the intelligence community where the intelligence community, they collect intelligence. They're collectors of information. So they'll use any method that works to collect information. So there were some people, some high-level officials in the government that knew that the Soviets were doing this in the during the Cold War period in the 1970s, and we more or less we were receiving intelligence reports that this was being done by the Soviets. So of course we needed to look into it too, because that was a threat. And our government hired Stanford Research Institute to look into some of the research that was being conducted. In the meantime, Department of Army, the intelligence branch of the Department of Army, they were running psychics or remote viewers operationally, and a lot of at that time was structures and buildings in the Soviet Union, and we were curious as to what they were doing there. And there was one individual who was one psychic named Joe McMoneagle, he was able to access and describe the first nuclear submarine that the Soviets built.
Wow. That's
so. Then after the Cold War period, and I was working for Army intelligence at the time as a current Central American analyst. The general that was in charge knew I had the ability, so eventually I got into the program. The general retired right when I was getting ready to get into the program, and we thought the program was going to end because he wasn't receiving the support that he needed from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, because that whole military people rotate. So the support that the general was receiving, he wasn't receiving the support that he needed, so he retired, and that was about the time that I was supposed to go into the program. So I didn't think I was going to make it. Well, from what I understood years later was that the military people, or the unit that had the psychics, the military people and the civilians, they were waiting around up at the fort. They were waiting around at Fort Meade, where the office was. They were waiting for reassignments. Well, what happened was the Defense Intelligence Agency came in, and they went to Congress, and they just transferred the psychics to them. So then it became one when the Defense Intelligence Agency was looking at the research and development, what other countries were doing, the capabilities of other countries, and then the operational, which was the remote viewers going after targets in the operational mode. So it was a three-pronged approach. We were receiving a lot of money from Congress, and then after the Cold War period, because it wasn't that the Soviets weren't that much of a threat, we started to go after terrorism.
Right. And now all of this has been declassified by the CIA, and you can speak about it, right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So, my understanding is that with the remote viewing, we were finding people from fugitives to hostages to breaking espionage rings and weapons of mass destruction.
Yes. We're looking at Gaddafi's chemical plants. I helped an investigator find a spy, but yeah, in hot locations, finding hostages.
Right. No, I want to get the viewers to understand that, a little bit about what the sixth sense is and being able, to travel through the quantum field to get information. And in that information, we know that, going back to the coronavirus of what's going on here, that we can see, everything that has been written in the present or the past is accessible to us as information that is already in the Akashic records.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, so people, we want to make them aware that this is, that through spirit, we do come with some tools into this life that we can access and be able to distinguish truth from falsehood, because we see so much information and misinformation, and it's kind of creating a chaotic environment where we're looking for more peace, tranquility, and and love in our lives. And we are we're seeing a time of kind of disturbances and destruction and so forth and so on, and we want to get things back on track. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I feel like you're correct. I mean, I feel like people now, I think more than ever, people may turn, because of the virus and what it has caused, it may cause people to go inward, to be more insightful, more intuitive. And I think that the virus is making more people aware, going inward, wanting to. Yeah, I think it's an interesting time.
An interesting time. Yeah, I feel that, this is an awakening time, and hopefully we've been kind of a little bit domesticated, and we've all been fooled. We've all been fooled at one time or the other, but there is truthful information is available. We can tap into that information, when we want to tap into that information. For those of us that have been trained in this and that are, and they can do this kind of work, we know we can serve to help others so that they don't have to have so much fear, that that there's no end in sight with this thing. And for me, it's a little bit, I hate to see, vaccines that are not needed, because we are building an immunity to this coronavirus. As I see it is, the rates, it's unfortunate that the rates of death are high, and that we are having to deal with this terrible problem. But now that they have opened up society, that people can go out to restaurants and out and about and things like that, and actually we need to let go of the fear, because the numbers are actually, they're reporting to go up, but they're actually going down, which the numbers that we're really concerned are the death rates. You open up a whole society and more people are intermingling, and yet, the death rate, for what I said in June, is going to end up being lower than May and April. Yet we have a lot more contact with people. So that can only mean that an immunity has started to really take hold, and people are going to be okay in time, and we have to allow that to happen naturally. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think that I believe, yeah, I feel like the death rates will go down. What's surprising to me is with all of the riots going on, you're not
Yeah.
hearing much about the rise of the coronavirus with all of the riots.
Right, right. Well, as you know, this is an election year, so every election year that we have, there's always going to be more issues, that are being created, that are being done. I don't know per se, but haven't looked into it that way. But seems to be more chaos and things
But
perpetrated.
I'm just saying, with all of the riots and people being close in proximity to each other, you would think there would be. You're not hearing of.
You're absolutely right.
Riots causing, yeah.
You would think that, yes, you're right. You got thousands of people gathering together
in one place, in close proximity, and yet you're
very
not
close proximity, and yet the death rate isn't going up.
Yes.
So I mean, the exposure is a lot higher, but also the numbers of testing have gone way higher. So when they say that, okay, there's a lot more people that have tested positive for this thing, yes. But that's the actual number that we're looking is the death toll, because there's a lot more testing being done than was done previously. So, those numbers don't acquire. There's many people that have gotten the coronavirus that, don't know that they had the coronavirus because they wrote it out.
Yeah.
I have, friends in New York that, whole family caught the coronavirus, and one person has type 2 diabetes and it's about 150 pounds overweight. And he felt like it hit him like a mad truck, but it didn't kill him. He didn't have to go to the hospital. He didn't have to do. A woman that I just recently been working, that I was in a meeting 3 weeks ago, she came down with the coronavirus and is now rapidly, getting better. So, all of these things, I guess there is an immunity being built. And as our immunities get stronger, I think that this thing is going to start making its way out.
I agree.
Okay, good. Anything else that you would want to add?
No, I just think that I just want people to be safe and be smart about everything. But I think we're going to get through this, and I think that things may change. I think maybe life may change. We can take the positive from what we've learned here, and life might change a little bit for us.
Right. We got to be more conscious of one another and how we deal with each other and things like that. So that's important. And, we hope to look to this thing coming out, and hopefully without, vaccines having to come forward, unnecessary things, because, nature takes care of everything, and we can heal through nature. We don't need all of these things that have not been fully tested, that don't have 20 years behind it, and that are quickly attempting to make it into the marketplace. All right, Angela. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, and we'll talk later.
We'll talk soon. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. God bless. Bye-bye.